All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. This next guest, he is a legend when it comes to basketball, especially in the coaching ranks. In 1998, he won the NCAA Championship with the Kentucky Wildcats. He's been named the National Coach of the Year 3 times, 6-time Conference Coach of the Year, where he's won it 3 times in the SEC and once in the Big 12. 5-time SEC tournament champion, 18 NCAA tournament appearances, 9 Sweet 16s, 3 Elite 8s. Oh, he's also an Olympic gold medalist with the 2000 men's basketball team. And he's in the University of Kentucky Athletic Hall of Fame along with the High Point University Hall of Fame. And he's currently the head coach for the High Point University basketball team. So without further ado, the legend himself, Coach Tubby Smith.
Well, man, I don't know who is that guy you just introduced? Hey, can you guys send that to my wife?
Look, man, I gotta let everybody know, man. Coach Tubby Smith plays no games, man. He's a beast, baby. He's been dominant for so long, and it's only right that you get your flowers when you can smell them, baby.
Well, I'm like a little puppy when I go home now. My wife doesn't care nothing about that. and my relatives either. They don't, and I've got a bunch of them.
That's funny, man. So talk to me a little bit, man. We know that obviously with the pandemic, this hasn't been your traditional off season, but I believe what you said, your guys have finally come back and you're able to have start having workouts. So just how's your team been maneuvering through everything right now? Well,
it's like everyone else. It's very, how can I say, psychologically. It's really, I'm sure it's taking a toll on a lot of young people and old people, especially people of my age and I'm African-American, black, so I'm 69 years old. So I'm in that category where I've got to be very careful. I don't have any pre-existing conditions, although I did have prostate cancer and overcame that years ago. But what I'm saying is that the ask about the young people, you've got to let them know that this is for real. This coronavirus is for real. You have to practice social distancing. You have to be disciplined, wearing your mask. So they're back here on campus, and we're just starting. They were here for just the last 2 or 3 weeks. We were, usually have 2 sessions of summer school, but we only had 1 session this year because of this pandemic. And we were actually supposed to be preparing to go to Canada on a foreign tour. And so we were going to bring them back just the last session anyway, which started on July 6th. And we're finishing up this week, so it'll be their last week. Friday will be our last day. And we just walked out of individual workouts with our players. You can only have 4 guys in the gym. Coaches have to wear a mask. We wear gloves, plastic gloves. Then we have it's 1 kid at 1 basket. And so the only ball can be touched by that coach. It's really wow. And so the kids we take their temperature when they come in the building. So there are a lot, and we've only had a few. I think we had about 200 students on campus. That was the most we've had on campus this summer at one time. But I'm interested to see how it's going to work when they get back here in August the 17th is when they return. So they'll leave on Friday. And then they'll be back here on August 17th. That kind of gives you an idea of our calendar for as we get ready. Well, but it's been. But our guys have responded well. They were so anxious to get back and be back with their teammates and work out again because they're home. A lot of them in different. Well, most of our players are from North Carolina or from. We don't have any. We have a kid from Connecticut, but we have a kid from Florida. So they're good. They're good now. They're happy now.
I like that. Now, I didn't even think about the fact that you are considered in the high risk category. So your thought process with all of that, were you nervous the first time coming back around the players? Absolutely.
I've been, but I've been practicing, we've had a lot of practice at it, over the last 4 months, we lost on, March. We played in the very first, out in the Big South, which we're in. It was won by Winthrop, and then the teams that would have represented us would have been Winthrop and Radford from the Big from the Big South. I'm sorry, it's the Big South. And we finished up ours. We lost on the 4th or 5th of March. And the 5th, and in the first round. So our players were on spring break, and I was concerned. So we, as I said, we've been practicing this social distancing and using a mask since, and we were actually, Syracuse was actually working out in our gym because the ACC tournament was being played in Greensboro, which is only about 20 minutes away.
I forgot all about that.
And in fact, North Carolina was supposed to play. The game was supposed to start, and they called the tournaments off that very week, which was the week of the 9th of March. So
crazy times, man. But definitely glad to hear that you're healthy, though. So the next thing that I wanted to know was, as decorated as you are, I mean, we talked about what you've been able to accomplish collegiately, obviously as an Olympic gold medalist as well. How do you stay motivated at this stage of your career?
I love the game. You've got to have a passion. If you're going to be successful in anything, you've got to have, and I learned early on, growing up in an environment with 16 other siblings. I had 4 brothers and 12 sisters. And my dad was ex-World War II veteran.
Where were you at in the 16?
I'm the 6th oldest, so there's 11 under me. Can you believe that?
You got priority then. I like it.
Oh yeah. You better believe it. So my oldest brother, he's 10 years older than I am. Then it was 4 girls between my older brother and me, so I was the next boy. And we grew up on a farm in southern Maryland. Wow. And near the Chesapeake Bay, the Patuxent River and Potomac River. So someone was saying, I go play at this golf and at this country club, and there's a lake there, and they want me to build. And I said, well, fellows, I know what you mean. I love this lake. It's beautiful looking out over it, but water to me was work. It wasn't leisure or recreation. Right. We either fished, or we were crabbing, or we were oystering. People made a living on the water. So, I don't have much to do with the water, because it's, even within farms, I grew up milking cows and killing hogs and feeding chickens, cutting wood, hauling water. So you asked me that question. I can't.
It teaches you work ethic, without a doubt.
Oh, well, you asked me. It's all about that. It's about longevity. And I talk, and that's what my dad said. Son, you don't have to do anything special. Just finish your job. He said, if you just last, you will achieve more than, and very few people will finish. And that's what his whole thing. Just finish. Just be the last man standing. And guess what? Good things will happen. Absolutely. And he's so right. And so I'm 47 years, starting my 47 years. I've never been without a job. I've been so blessed.
That's big time. I like that. Yeah. I like that. Now, speaking of,
well, a lot of people talk about it. John Wooden, legendary coach, was longevity. His whole thing was balance in your life, and I've tried to do that. Not get too high when we win, and not get too low when we lose. My dad used to call it moderation.
Okay.
Moderation. He said, son, practice moderation. He said, I'll tell you not to smoke, but you're probably going to try it, but don't make it a habit. It's tobacco, you didn't have marijuana back, but tobacco and all. He said, it'll ruin you, son. And he said, if you drink, don't be careful, because you can become an alcoholic easily. He said, so just anything you do, don't go to the extremes, and you'll be fine. It was, we had chores to do on the farm, and he would assign you a job, and he would say, Tubby, I want you make sure that, you've got all these these weeds to pull out the garden. And you got your team, your team, which is your sibling, your brothers and sisters. You make sure. So I learned how to make them do some things and help me get the job done. Yeah. So coaching was always in my blood.
All right, I can definitely respect that. Now, when you talk about finishing, you talk about being the last man standing, and a lot of times like that, and also just being not getting too high, not getting too low. During that 1998 season when you won the NCAA championship, just talk about what that was like for you.
Well, I guess you'd have to. I think people don't realize I had been an assistant coach at Kentucky previously when we were on probation from '89 and '91. And we had followed Eddie Sutton. There just was a special on TV about Eddie Sutton. What a great coach, great man.
Legend.
And he was a legend. And, he was in the Hall of Fame. But they had some issues there, and we came in. So I had an understanding and appreciation for Kentucky basketball, the bluegrass. It was a way of life for those folks in Kentucky. It is, and they love it's a passion because they had at that time in '98. Other than no one else had won more championships than Kentucky, other than UCLA. So, and a guy like Adolph Rupp, who had won 4 national championships, and then we when I came in, we came in '97, '98 after being at Georgia. But that was by the time I got back to Kentucky in '98, I'd been a high school coach at 2 different places. I'd been an assistant coach at 3 different places. I'd been a head coach at Tulsa and at Georgia. So I'd already moved my family 7 times. You see what I mean? That was my 7th move.
Jeez.
So right, being back here, this is my 13th move. Or 14th. So what I'm saying is that that coming back to Kentucky and winning it in '98 was special. And they still only have 8 championships. I said only, but but we have one of them. You know what I mean? A lot of people ask me, said, "Well, Adolph Rupp had 4, and everybody else has 1." From Joe B. Hall had 1. Rick Pitino had 1.
Was it Calipari House?
I had 1, and Calipari has 1. So. So I'm in some high cotton, boys.
Oh, no question.
Now, you were talking about just coaching.
But it was a special day. The group, what's so special about championships are the relationships, because I still stay in touch with Jeff Shepard, who was MVP in that '98 Final Four championship. Scott Padgett, I still talk to him. Alan Edwards, all the players are on that team, whether it was Nazi Muhammad, Jamal McGlure, Scott Padgett, all those guys went on to play in the NBA. And so I'm really proud and really and honored that I had an opportunity to lead that program. But it's nothing like it. I can just tell you right now, it's not a hard job, but it's intense.
Well, yeah, you're talking about that right now, of it just Kentucky being a little bit different than any of your other coaching destinations. Can you elaborate on that? Like, what was it? Was it specifically the pressure from media, fans? Like, what was the good and the bad in coaching at Kentucky? What made it so different?
Well, I never looked at it as pressure, to be honest with you. And that's something that my dad grew up on a farm with 16 other siblings and not knowing how to, you had to grow everything we pretty much ate. You had to, like my dad said, boy, if you don't feed that hog, we ain't eating. You don't weed that garden, you don't cultivate that garden, we ain't eating. If you don't do these, you don't feed those chickens, and we ain't eating.
Absolutely.
So he used to say to me, I said, Dad, man, you know what kind of pressure, boo? He said, son, don't you ever think what you're doing is pressure. And he said, I can tell you what pressure is, son, trying to feed 17 hungry mouths. That's what pressure is. And he's right. So I always looked at it as, and I probably wasn't as intense or as, but what I'm saying is that that's the mindset in order to succeed that I felt I had to have, or would have torn me in pieces. You know what I mean? Emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and pressure. I would have never made it 10 years. Which I'm still the 3rd longest tenure coach in the history of Kentucky basketball. So that's another story, but it's I don't know where I was going with that. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, I think you bring up a lot of good points about perspective and being level-headed. Yeah.
Well, the perspective is that wherever you coach, whether it was at Great Mills High School, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Memphis, Kentucky, Georgia, as a coach, you and as an athlete, you're trying to give your best no matter what. You're giving your best effort no matter where you are. And you're trying to make that a better program. You're trying to help your players reach their goals and their dreams. You're trying to make that community, that university, and you're trying to win. And you're doing it as best you can within the rules.
Absolutely.
And so I felt like everywhere we've been able to do that successfully.
I like that, which is huge. Definitely. Now, talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament, man. Everybody talks about how there's nothing like it. But for you, man, what do you like most about the NCAA tournament? And then also, outside of winning the championship in 98, what's your most memorable moment in the NCAA tournament?
Well, my most memorable moment was sharing that championship with especially with my family, because I was coaching Saul, my middle son, played for me at Kentucky. And then I had Gigi, who's the associate head coach here at High Point now. I just coached him at Georgia. So I coached my oldest son for 2 years at Georgia, and I left, and my son Saul was actually supposed to be playing with his brother at Georgia. But C.M. Newton, the AD, called me, and I moved to Kentucky, and then my son Saul, who was part of that 98 championship team and worked for me for a few years. He now lives in Milwaukee. But I remember the relationships. I mentioned some of the 4 players on that team, and the coaches, and the fans, and the administration. But sharing it with my family. By that I mean my wife was there, my mom was there, God rest her soul. My dad was still with me, but he didn't make that trip to San Antonio, Texas. And San Antonio is one of my favorite cities. But and so it was just, and then to be able to share with all the coaches that I've ever had in my life, from my 9th grade teacher, who was my math teacher, Cecil Short, in 1965, 66, who just passed away back in February, and I was at his memorial service. And I can name every teacher I've ever had, and they were the important people in my life. From my 1st grade teacher to my graduate school teacher. Those are the people that influenced me and had the biggest impact. Now, the coaches obviously had a major impact. I was just my high school. Cecil Short coached me at the all-black school, George Washington Carver. Then we were in the schools where we were bused to Great Mills High School, the all-white school, and then I had Coach Gene Wood, who still comes through my games now from Southern Maryland. So it's, you understand, that's what it meant to me. When I stood up and they asked me to say a few words after we won the national championship, holding that trophy, all I could think about was my parents, the folks in Scotland, Maryland, Great Mills High School, George Washington Carver, High Point, North Carolina, where I went to college. That's what I said. I want to share with everyone that's influenced and had an impact on my life. It's for you, and that's who it was for.
I like that. Now, was there anything in particular that stands out to you about the NCAA tournament, though, that, man, this is what I like the most about the tournament itself?
Well, it's, you want to compete at the best. And I've been very fortunate to coach at some outstanding institutions. And Tulsa was our first. Actually, we had gone to the NCAA 4 out of 6 years. 4 of 6 years at VCU. From 79 to 86, we went to 4 NCAA tournaments. So I never then went there as a player, but I worked for J.D. Barnett, who coached me for a year here at High Point and in Richmond, Virginia. That's why, VCU has been a very good program ever since. In fact, you have one of the outstanding coaches there at University of Pittsburgh, and Jeff Capel, who coached at VCU and had an excellent record there before he went to Oklahoma. And then, so a lot of people, Shaka Smart had his start.
I was going to say, VCU has a nice little lineage, man. Was Sutton, Sutton Smith, he coached down there, I want to say.
Sonny Smith there.
Sonny Smith, excuse me. Yeah, Sonny Smith coached there. I think Sherman Dillard might have been on the staff at VCU at one point. He's out in Iowa now.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I have I'm brought up Jeff Capel because I coached against his dad when he was his dad used to coach at Pinecrest, in Pinehurst, North Carolina. I was at Hope County, Rayford, North Carolina. So it's a small world, man.
Yes, indeed.
I've had a good affinity for Pittsburgh too. I'm not getting off the subject. I'm sorry, you guys want to ask.
No, I like hearing that. I like hearing that. I went to Pitt. Yeah, that's good.
Well, we coming to Pittsburgh every summer. That's one of the things that we look forward to. At Coraopolis, we used to go out there, and they had the 5-star tournament. I mean, the 5-star camp out there that was run by the great Howard Garfinkel. And those kids would be out there on that blacktop asphalt at Robert Morris College. And then we go to Holmesdale, Pennsylvania and it was just great. That's where Michael Jordan really became Michael Jordan in between his junior, senior year. And if you were the camper of the week, then they scholarship you for another week. And
up at Robert Morris.
Up at Robert Morris.
This is where MJ became MJ. No way.
Huh?
No, this is where MJ became MJ.
Yeah.
No way. I didn't know this at all. Wait, did you know this, Buzz?
We talked about it already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have the.
Yeah, but a lot of coaches, he blew up that summer, because he wasn't, and then all of a sudden everybody in the world was recruiting him. But that's what the 5-star camp was about. They had about 400 kids there. And every coach in America would just about every major college coach would end up coming to Coraopolis or to Robert Morris for the 5-star camp.
Oh, that's awesome. Now I have a question about one of your players that used to play on Kentucky, Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo.
Did
you think he was going to be to this caliber NBA player that he's been, a champion and all-star in the league?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Rajon may be the greatest athlete I've ever coached.
Wow.
And that's coaching the Olympic team.
You've coached some guys.
I've coached Tayshaun Prince, Jody Meeks, Rafael Maldonado.
You had Vince Carter with the Olympic team.
Vince Carter, but I'm telling you right now, Rajon Rondo, pound for pound,
is
as great an athlete as I've ever been around. His speed, his hands, his understanding of the game, his intellectual, his basketball IQ was second to none. Now, again, I've had guys who were maybe a better player. He couldn't. If Rajon Rondo could make the 3-point shot or hit the three,
oh man, that changed the game for him.
He might be one of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, defensively, heck, he set a record in steals as a freshman at Kentucky. He led the SEC in steals. I mean, I saw him get 19 rebounds in a game. So he's just so talented. His speed, his athleticism, he could have been any athlete. He could have been anything he wanted. A wide receiver. He was a quarterback when he was in junior high school.
Wow. Now,
talented.
I was going to say, so what was it like recruiting him too, man? Did you feel like right out the gate that you knew you were going to get him to commit, or how was that?
No, well, actually, he's from Louisville, and he probably wanted to go to Louisville, and we had a spot come open, to be honest with you, because he went to Oak Hill Academy.
Yeah.
He went from a high school in Louisville, and then he went to Oak Hill Academy, where Steve Smith has been there forever. They had great teams.
Oh, yeah. A ton of talented people that come through Oak Hill. Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, you think about some of the guys that have gone that, I'm just thinking about, Vince Carter didn't, but we had guys like, Carolina's had a number of different guys to come from Oak Hill Academy. The shooter from Syracuse won the national.
Mello went Oak Hill.
Carmelo Anthony. And they've had some great ones come through there. But no, you asked me about a guy that I really have Rajon, his competitive spirit. You can see it in the NBA. But he went on to win a national championship. We didn't win one. We lost in the Elite Eight. But he won one with the Boston Celtics. And I remember telling Danny Ainge and Doc Rivers how that he'd be the best athlete in their program. And he had Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. He has some players now.
Yes. I like that. Now, speaking of, just some of those top players that we've been naming off, you got a chance to coach a lot of these guys in the 2000 Olympics out in Sydney, Australia. So just talk about that experience for you, man, and ultimately what you enjoyed most about it.
Well, you know what? That may be in the most pressure that I felt in a long time.
Wow.
Because we had to qualify.
Mm.
Because if you remember the previous Olympic, we didn't do well.
Yes.
And so we had to, in 99, we had Tim Duncan, Alonzo Mourning, Vince Carter. We had Jason Kidd, the glove, Gary Payton. We had Timmy Hardaway. We had Ben Baker.
Man, you got some names, baby. Talk about them.
Tom Gugliotta. We had some guys that, we had, who else? We had, and Antonio McDyess.
Yeah.
Loaded. We had Allen Houston, Steve Smith. Oh, man. We had some. But what I'm saying is that we had to go into Puerto Rico and qualify to get to the Olympics. Now that was tough. That was hard. Then we go to Sydney, Australia, and we weren't. And see, Tim Duncan had knee surgery, so he didn't make the Olympics. He didn't come that year. Tom Gugliotta didn't come, but we added some other guys like Antonio McDyess and some others that really, Vin Baker, they stepped up big time, man. We had but those guys played their hearts out, and that was the Olympic where Vince Carter
jumped over the guy. Yes.
From France.
Man, that's
it was strange because I've never seen a game just stop, and even the guys from France were high fiving him.
Dude,
the referees, everybody.
That's one of the most legendary moments ever in basketball. Like I will never forget seeing that, dude. Oh man,
that was a special time. But that was a long commitment. That's what I'm impressed with Mike Krzyzewski, and now I think Popovich will be the head coach now. That you talk about a real commitment. But there's nothing greater than representing your country, representing the USA. That's pressure. You may be representing Kentucky,
right.
If you're in the NCAA tournament, or you may be representing. But when you get to that, you're representing everybody in the USA.
That's definitely big.
That's why I've got the world of respect for athletes that compete for us in the Olympics or on the world stage, when there was the World Games, University Games. That's because everybody's pulling against the USA. When you go to those.
Oh yeah.
So especially in basketball.
Now, a lot of times we hear about them saying how challenging it is from a basketball standpoint because the European style is more spaced out and the rules are a little bit different when it comes to the Olympics. But just talk about how, I guess, challenging it was for you in terms of adapting to that style of play and coaching the players. And how do you even decide who's starting or not when you got so many talented people out there?
Yeah, it's but it's like anything else. If you're at the college or high school, junior high, little dribbler level, the best are going to rise to the top. But you get a rotation. It's like in the NBA. They're NBA teams. They can't. Everybody, only 5 guys can start. But there's not much of a drop off when you have that type of talent. Everybody's a all pro caliber player, and these guys are pros. By that I mean they understand how to take care of their bodies. They understand they're disciplined on and off the basketball court. That's why they're at that level. And you try to tell young people and players at this level, at the college level, hey man, you know what sacrifices these guys making? You know how hard they work on their game, and they would after we work out, they'd be in there working on the game, to be in the weight room. Amazing. And so, and then a lot of these guys, came right from, they came from playing all the way into June. See what I mean? And now they have to go into the Olympics, and they have to sacrifice, and they commit about 40 days, 30 some days to the team. So they don't get a break. Now, by the time they finish the Olympics, they right back at the grind again, getting ready for their NBA season.
Man, that's major.
So I've got the most respect for and basketball is such a demanding. I know you're a football player, but
no, man, that basketball schedule long, baby. Yeah.
But I play football myself.
Oh, okay.
And I coached football in high school for 6 years as a high school coach, but I never could figure out what position. I thought I was a running back because every time I try to get in the game, the coach said, "Tubby, get your tail back here." So I thought it was a tailback. But For all those years, I was.
It's like that sometimes, man.
Hey, I was playing football, and my family. Imagine 17 and then my relatives all in the stands, and the game being pretty much done. And my family be in the stands going, "We want Tubby. We want Tubby." So the coach called me up. I grabbed my helmet, put it on. And he said, "Tubby, your family's calling you. I think you better go up in the stands."
No.
Now, can you talk about maybe your favorite or your best coaching mentor that you've had in your life? Like who do you think you've learned the most lessons from in terms of I guess just like a coaching tree?
Well, I would think that I'm sort of in the how can I say it? I learned a lot with J.D. Barnett because he coached me here at High Point from 71 to 72. And that was my junior year, and made me team captain and things like that. And then I was his assistant coach at VCU for 6 years, where we had a lot of success from 79 to 86, 85. So and then he left and went to Tulsa, and I actually replaced him at Tulsa. But a lot of my, that was a really formative years for me because I left high school, and that's tough because I'd already, I went from being a high school head coach to being an assistant coach for the next 12 years.
Oh wow!
And that was a real transition. When you've been your own boss, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But that it helped that I was able to get a head coaching job immediately out of college. I became a head coach at my alma mater at Great Mills High School. Then I went to Hope County High School. Then that's when J.D. Barnett had me. I decided to join his staff at VCU. But then again, guys like Dean Smith, because I grew up in, I went to school here in North Carolina. I've had one of the guys who most influential. I had the guy that recruited me was a guy that recruited me out of high school. I actually signed with the University of Maryland, but they let the coach go at Maryland, so I ended up coming to High Point. But Jerry Steele, who was here for 31 years as the head coach here at High Point, coaching me my senior year. So I've had a lot of good mentors, but I've worked with some great coaches. I worked alongside Rick Pitino at Kentucky, George Felton at South Carolina. I worked alongside, I mentioned J.D. Barnett in college, and some of the, like Kevin Eastman, who ended up being he was there when they won the NBA championship with Doc Rivers. So we were assistants together. So I've worked with a lot of great people. But I would say the most influential, one of the guys had a real impact on my moving up the ladder in coaching was C.M. Newton. Legendary coach, was AD at Kentucky when he hired me in 97, 98. But he was an Olympian. By that, he coached in the Olympics with Bobby Knight. He's passed now, but he was a great man. He played for the great Adolph Rupp at Kentucky, and he coached at Vanderbilt and in Alabama. And he was the guy that had the first black player at Alabama.
Wow.
And Leon Douglas. So, when he got it, and people wanted to tell me he was the first black coach at Kentucky, but C.M. Newton had already, he'd already experienced that at Alabama. Hiring, recruiting the first black player. So I'm just naming names. I want to make sure I don't leave many people out that have been influential.
No, for sure.
And had an impact.
Definitely understand that. Now, you've had the opportunity to coach at numerous schools. Obviously, you had your success coaching in the Olympics as well. What do you think is the reason why you've been able to be so successful at so many different locations?
That's an interesting question. I just, I was planning on staying everywhere I've ever been. And I tell young coaches that, and anybody that listen to me, whenever you take a position or a job, plan on being there for the rest of your career. And if you do that, you will put down deep roots and you'll do it the right way. You see what I mean? It's like growing a garden. You've got to cultivate it. You got to weed that garden. You've got to fertilize it, and you've got to stay the course. But then again, I remember my dad when I was at Tulsa, and I had so much. We had gone to the Sweet 16 2 years in a row. They gave me an extension on my contract, and Georgia called the great Vince Dooley, the athletic director, Vince there, and I called C.M. Newton. Well, C.M. Newton called me, and he was kind of guiding my career. And I asked my dad, who was still alive at the time. I said, Dad, he said, boy, why would you leave Tulsa? Those people love you there. You're doing great, man. I said, well, Dad, and he's the same one that sent me off to college at High Point and told me I shouldn't, this is where I need to go. But he said, he said, your boys and everybody's happy, your wife, everybody happy? I said, yes, sir. I said, but he said, what's the difference between Georgia and Tulsa? I said, well, Georgia's is in the SEC. They got about 20,000 students. We've got 4,000 students here. I said, he said, well, that's, boy, you're from a big family. You might want to stay. I said, well, yeah. And then I told him all the other things that they have. They have a chance to get to postseason. He said, you just went to postseason play, didn't you? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I said, it's just a bigger and better job, and the competition is Power 5 type school. He said, well, how much they paying you there at Tulsa? He didn't know. I told him what it makes. He said, well, how much they going to pay you at Georgia? I said, well, they're going to double my pay. He said, boy, you got to go to Georgia. Because
money talks, man.
Yeah, he said, if I could double my pay right now, son, if anybody can double their salary right now, they should do it.
It's true.
He said, so you make sure you look after your family. And so I've kind of lived by that whole motto. And I've never wanted to leave a place. Now, some places, they didn't want me there, so I had to leave. Even though we had success both at Memphis and Minnesota.
Yeah.
But that's life. That's life. I ain't mad at them.
Good life lessons there.
Yeah,
think long term, but be a little flexible.
Yeah. Well, you got to be risk takers. I was reading something the other day where Simone Biles was talking about, she would rather regret the risk she didn't take than the chances she did. See what I mean? So it was something like that. It was an unbelievable statement about, don't be regretting that I didn't take a risk or that I didn't. Yeah. So
can't live life safe like that, man.
No, you got to be willing to move.
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
Opportunities present itself. And I was fortunate in my family that my dad kind of told me go away. High Point was about 6, 7 hours, 8 hours from Maryland, where I was from. And since that time, I've been able to adapt and adjust. I mean, it's coaching. I mean, it's the same at the high school level. See, you understand what I mean? You actually, whether you're coaching JV basketball, high school basketball, junior college basketball, major college basketball, NBA, the fundamentals and the mechanics are the same. And kids want to be taught. Players want to compete, and that's it. They want to be disciplined. They want to be coached. So,
yeah, no doubt. Now, Moats was telling me you're an avid golfer here. Do you have a top 5 golf courses that you've played in your golfing career? Like, what are some of the big names here?
Well, some of the big places I played?
Yeah.
Whistling Straits. We were supposed to be back in Whistling Straits this year.
There we go.
Augusta?
In Wisconsin.
Augusta?
Yeah, I've been to Pittsburgh. I played at
Oakmont.
Yeah. Man.
Okay.
Oakmont. I played Pine Valley. Come on, man. I haven't played Pebble Beach. That's one I want to play.
Augusta?
But I've played. Let me see some of the other ones that. Oh,
have you had Augusta yet?
The Masters?
I was supposed to play Augusta when I was at Georgia.
Oh man!
And I left there and went to Kentucky.
No.
Yeah. Actually, I was supposed. A guy called me and wanted me to go, and I said I've got to go recruiting. It was like in September after the Masters, right before they closed the course down. It might have been August. And I said, I wish. And that was the last opportunity that anybody. But I'm going someday.
Yeah,
I've been there twice. I've been there 2 times for the Masters, but I've never played it.
So what's on your list right now? Like maybe top 2 or 3 places you still want to play? Obviously Augusta.
I want Pebble Beach, Augusta. I want to play Black Page. What is it up there?
Bethpage. Yeah, up in New York.
Bethpage. Because I've played. What's the one up there in Norland that they play in New York? That's so great. Those are the ones I love to play. I like to play Michael Jordan's new course.
Where's that?
Whoa,
That Grove 23, down outside of Jupiter.
Wow. Okay.
Is there any tournaments getting played there? Are they set up for any PGAs?
Okay. He just built. He just. It's only a year old, I think, or 2 years old.
Okay. That's something to watch out for then.
Shout out to Jordan. He just said, "I'm gonna make a whole golf course."
But I'm gonna be in a. I love playing Shadow Creek in Vegas. That's a nice course. I love playing in when you go up in the mountains in Nevada. And, you play where they play in Trunk. Where they played the tournament in Lake Tahoe.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Maui. Man, those some great courses in Hawaii. That's a blessing. I've been very blessed to have this opportunity. So, thank goodness Nolan Richardson, who used to coach at Arkansas, told me I better start playing golf because. Yeah, when I got my first head coaching job at Tulsa, because he had been at Tulsa previously, and he said, "Tubby, you need to learn to play golf."
Did you like it at first?
Pardon me?
Did you like it at first?
What, golf?
Yeah, like right off the bat.
Man,
really?
No, man. Oh no, I hated it. Man, I was, I'm losing dozens and two. I was counting I was measuring my game by the amount of balls I didn't lose.
Yeah,
I'm on that stage right now as well.
I think the first time I played, I might have lost 18 balls. Yeah. and the folks I was playing with, they looked at me like, "Boy, here, coach, here's another ball." Oh, you guys are fun to talk to, man. Anything else?
So we got a couple more, and then we'll be out of here, man. So, I know you talked about Rajon Rondo as one of the best players that you've been able to coach in terms of athletic ability and stuff like that. But would you say he is the best player that you've coached? And this is including your Olympics and everything.
Oh man, yes, you never reveal that. But I thought Tayshaun Prince was as versatile and as gifted an athlete, and he won an NBA championship with the Detroit Pistons.
One of the most legendary plays too, when he blocked Reggie Miller's shot on the glass on the layup.
That's right. Remember that?
Yes, that was beautiful.
Saved the game. Saved the game.
Oh, no question.
So they interviewed me and said, "Did Tayshaun have?" I said he was our stopper. He was one of the top shot blockers in the history of Kentucky basketball. He's one of the top shot blockers in the SEC year in and year out. Yeah. So it wasn't, I said, no, that didn't surprise me. I knew he wouldn't give up on it.
Yeah.
He didn't give up on the play. He came from all the way across court.
It was beautiful.
To block it.
It was beautiful.
And that's the way he played. And then Chuck Hayes, who I thought.
Oh, man, I forgot Chuck Hayes. God.
He probably overachieved more than any player I've ever coached. The guy started for the Houston Rockets.
Yeah. He was undersized. Yes.
Undersized. And he was just a beast and rebounding, one of the top rebounders in the history of Kentucky basketball, and so I've had some players.
Man, that's awesome.
And those are guys that played for 4 years. See, now Rajon left after sophomore year, but I had Chuck and Keith, and then Keith Bogans. Keith Bogans played in the league for a long time. If he gets hurt in, we're playing Marquette in the NCAA tournament in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the Elite Eight, and that's when Dwayne Wade had a triple-double. But Keith Bogans had hurt his ankle 2 nights before against Wisconsin, and he had a high ankle sprain, and we had nobody that could really guard Dwayne Wade at that time, and we lost them, and they went to the Final Four.
Wow.
Well, we lost to Marquette, went to the Final Four. We lost to Maryland when they won the national championship. We lost to.
Was that the year with Gilchrist?
State when they won the championship, when they won the national championship.
Now the year with Maryland, was that that was a Gilchrist, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No. That was Wilcox.
Oh, okay.
And the boy and the Dewan, the little guard.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Okay.
And they had a heck of a team, man. And that's when Gary Williams and they went on to win I think their only NCAA championship.
That's tight. Now, speaking of some of these players that you've talked about, man, that you played against, who would you say is the best player that you've had the opportunity to coach against?
I just mentioned Dwayne Wade. He was right up there. He had a triple-double. He was a pretty talented player. But we had to coach against North Carolina when they had Vince Carter wasn't there, but they went on a run there where they had the kids when they won the national championship with Roy Williams, his second or third year there. They had some pretty talented players. But in this league, in the SEC, oh, man, there's so many great ones. I guess coaching against Arizona when they had some who they have on their team at the time? Miles, Simon, and that group. And Jason Terry. They had a heck of a team. And then, going up against Louisville every year, I remember coaching. I didn't really coach against them, but I was assistant coach. We coached against Never Nervous Purvis Ellison. He was freshman of the year in the country. He was MVP in an NCAA tournament with Denny Crum. And he was a beast. But there's been some great. Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh.
When I was at Kentucky, he was at LSU. I was assistant coach.
Wow. Yeah, that's one right there. Whew, I like it. All right, now the last question we got for you, Coach, before we let you up out of here. We always talk, with our athletes and coaches. We ask them about their welcome to the NFL moment, welcome to the NBA moment. But for you, man, talk about your welcome to coaching moment when you finally had that moment of, oh man, this is the big league, whether it was good or bad.
When you say that, welcome to my coaching moment. Mm-hmm. I did mention the founding the championship, but I thought coaching my boys, coaching my two sons, my only regret in college coaches that I didn't coach my third son. Mm. He went on to play at Ole Miss. So what I'm saying to you is nothing greater than being around my family and coaching my boys and coaching my sons. I don't think anything gets greater than family and, faith, family, and friends. And
absolutely.
So those were my moments. Those 6 years that I coached my two sons were the winningest years of my coaching career.
Wow. I like that, man.
All right.
I like that.
I'll leave you with that, fellas.
Yes,
it's a Deke.
Yo. Yeah.
Arthur.
Yep.
It's been I appreciate you guys allowing me to visit with you. Thanks for having me on.
No, we appreciate
you, man.
It was a blast. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And good luck this season.
Hey,
too.
you know what? One other story.
Here we go.
One of the first players I lost when I was an assistant coach at VCU was a guy by the name of Roosevelt Kirby. Look him up. He played at the University of Pittsburgh. That was back in 1981. And he was a lefty. He was a big 6'10" from Conner. He went to Conner State, I think, down in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And I went all the way out there to sign him, and that joker had already signed. I was so mad. Well, that was back when you could show up and sign a kid. Back in the late 70s and 80s, you could go there, and about 4 coaches showed up. And I guess I don't know if he told everybody, but we all were expected to sign him.
He told
and he had already signed.
That's crazy.
I got there about 8:30 in the morning. He's in a class, so I knocked on the window, said, "Hey, come here, man." It took me all night to get there.
Wow.
All right, well, look, that's my story. Take care, bro.
That's funny, man. We appreciate you again, Coach.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.